birthday and how long you've lived in Hernando County.
Nancy Garman Dyson. I am 66, and I have lived in Hernando County for 66 years.
Okay, and what part of the county have you lived in?
I started out, my first 14 years was on Munden Hill Road. Then we moved to Lakes Dublin Road, which connects 50 to Wisconsin now. It used to be a dirt road.
What was it like back then? What sorts of things do you remember in those early years, starting from Munden Hill Road and onward?
My favorite moments were on Munden Hill. That's where my childhood was. That's when you didn't have problems. You were a kid. You didn't know problems existed. And my dad, he was stationed here in World War II. That's how I met my mom, because the airport was an air base. And he used to be there when the B-17s came in and out all the time. And I was 48 before my dad told me what he did in the service. I didn't know.
Wow.
He helped assemble the bombs that went on the Enola Gay.
Oh, wow.
He was on the bomb squad. I didn't know that. And he watched the Enola Gay take off to drop leaflets, and then 2 days later they took off again with the bombs when they hit Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And when I found out what my dad did, I was like, Dad? He goes, well, I was 19. I just did what I was told. Okay, cool. He got interviewed by the paper, which he didn't like. It made him mad. And then Channel 13 interviewed him. And then he got phone calls like crazy from different people that said because of what he did, they didn't get shipped out. And these two people from Ridge Manor called him, and they were crying, thanking my dad for what he did. My dad, I was 19. I just did what I was told. And that's what most of us did back then. We did what we were told. My grandfather was, like everybody else in the county, was farmers. It was an agricultural society here. He was a meat cutter, and all of his sons, Harold and Curly and Gene, they all helped slaughter the cows and the pigs, and then they all dressed it out, Mr. Smith, Mr. Jones, Mr. Johnson, whatever, whoever came in. I would watch them shoot the animals, which bothered me, but and then they would dress them out in white paper and put the people's names on it, and they would come back and pick up their sausages, their hams, their beef and hamburger. So it was all farming. If someone's barn was to burn down, then we all went to that person's house, and you built the barn, and the kids and the mothers and the children played, mamas made hot dogs. It was that kind of a community. It was very laid back. The only thing there was downtown Brooksville. There was nothing outside of the square. The square was Brooksville. That was it. So it was a better time, a quieter time, a safer time. We didn't have to lock our doors. We could leave our Christmas presents in the car and not lock it while we went into another store to buy something else. Everything changed for this county from what I've seen to where we are today. I could walk to my neighbors' houses, but we were pretty few and far between. It wasn't. I could ride my bike, no problem. I would go to my friend's house, almost to where McDonald Mines was. And back then, which I laugh when I see the commercial today, back then you got up, you had your breakfast, you got dressed, you went outside. You didn't come back inside till lunch. Mom and Daddy didn't want to see you. Go outside and play. Commercials today say, oh, get up and play an hour a day. Hello, we played I don't know how many hours a day, because we came in, had breakfast, came in for lunch, and then before it got dark, we had to be back home. That was basically the rule. And you didn't have to worry about being kidnapped, as I rode my bike to my cousin's house. And I would ride back in the dark, okay, I know where I'm at. Nobody worried. I mean, that was good. It was a good life. It was a good life. Yeah, you didn't get away with anything in the county, because by the time you got home, your mother already knew about it. Yeah.
Yeah. What was school like? I know you said everybody's in the one school.
Hernando High School, in my era, you couldn't wear pants. I remember that one of the boys, he was a farmer. I mean, he wore jeans, and they had a fight about that. I mean, it's like the school board wasn't happy over the fact that he was wearing jeans. That's what the kid lived in. He was a farmer. He wasn't wearing dress pants to school. Girls could not wear slacks. We had to wear dresses or skirts. Wow. I graduated in 65. 5 more years, everything changed. it all changed. You know, integration came in, dress code got a little more lax, and it was good, you know. But in the 60s, no, you had to wear a skirt or a dress.
And what types of things were you expected to do after you graduated from school? What types of jobs or not were women especially expected?
Well, during high school, we had a choice of professional or vocational. And back in the 60s, if you were going to go to college, you went the professional route. You got all your Englishes and lots of math and trig and all of that. Vocational was more preparing you for the real world. And that in the 60s, women weren't going to be anything but housewives. That was, or secretaries. That was basically what was open to us. I went the vocational route. So I had typing 1 and 2, bookkeeping 1 and 2, shorthand 1 and 2, etc. My first job was working for Dr. Hensley, Don's father, Earl, and I was a receptionist. I did that. Then the next thing I worked was Touchton Drugstore. I started out as, you know, stocking and then worked my way up to, I typed the menu every day. They had like a little area inside where you could eat back then, kind of like Grant's. And then they taught me how to fill prescriptions, which, you know, I would put the bottle there, count the pills, and they would come by and look at the bottle, make sure I had the right prescription, and count the pills, and then they would just scoop it up. And so I did that, and that got me started toward the medical profession in a way. That kind of got me hooked, I guess.
Right,
So
that's interesting.
I went to nursing school then in 1970. We were trained as bedside nurses. That is truly not what happened when I came to Lakes Memorial. They told me I was in charge of the ER. That is not what I trained for. I mean, that was like, what?
As a bedside nurse, or having been trained as a bedside nurse in the 70s, what would that have entailed? Because today there's so many.
The CNAs are doing today about what the LPNs did back then.
Oh.
I mean, you had to have, we could give shots and stuff like that, but we also bathed our patients, changed their sheets, made sure they got up and walked if they were post-surgicals, these sort of things. So we had like a team, and I'd have the LPN and then there'd be an aide, and we would have like 15 patients. And of course, back then it was our community, our friends, our neighbors. It was a 40-bed hospital, okay? That was it.
That's it.
Any true trauma, which I had my share in the ER, gunshot wounds and things that weren't supposed to happen in Brooksville. And of course, you know, you got to report all gunshot wounds. And like we had 3 guys bring in a little guy, laid him on the stretcher, and he had powder burns, and powder burns. And I said, "Who shot you?" "I don't know." You know what? That's the end of my questions. I'm done. Because one of those 3 guys out there is the one that did it. Trying to get the doctor to shut up was the hardest thing. He kept saying, "Who shot you?" I kept saying, "Be quiet. Let it go. Oh, we're all going to be shot, okay? Just shut up." But when we take the bullet out, "Is this going to hurt?" And I laughed. And I'm thinking, you just got shot 3 times. And now you're worried about this is going to hurt. I mean, seriously? So he left with his bullet.
Wow.
He took it with him. Yeah.
Wow.
So a lot of interesting things that I had to adapt to, from bedside nurse to becoming what in the hospital I became almost an RN with an LPN's license.
Right.
So I did that for 22 years, and then finally at age 43 and a grandmother, I went back to PHCC and I got my RN.
Oh, wow.
So I graduated in 1993
Wow.
with the RN. So yeah, I finally worked 5 years and then got cancer. So.
Wow.
It was a short-lived career, but my life has been very full of nursing, and I'm still nursing. I just don't get paid for it. I do.
How have you?
I do, but I don't. You know that.
Right. I mean, were there things that were sort of evidence of the community changing that you saw?
Oh yeah.
During that time, for example, the gunshots that are not supposed to happen in Brooksville.
Right. Basically, what I saw as a nurse was nurses being turned out that were more book informed than patient informed. They were more book learned than patient advocate. The aides had 15 patients, but the nurses were no longer part of the team. They thought they were above that. I made a lot of bad friends back then. I made a lot of people mad. Tried to report me, and the supervisor came up and saw it was me and said, "She's forgotten more than you'll ever know. I suggest you listen to her." So I like to see the patients are number one. That's where I come from. And now being on the receiving end, there's multiple horror stories I could tell you that I myself have gone through. And it's been at each hospital. It's not any one hospital, even Tampa General. It seems to be a lack of caring, a lack of follow through. They don't know their patients. They see it as a gallbladder in bed 1 or a hysterectomy in bed 4. They don't know that that person's a mother, a sister, a daughter. They don't connect the body and make it a full person, and that irritates me to no end. It does.
Do you think that's a result of the growth in the population, or just times changing that couldn't have been avoided even if we wanted to?
Population should not make a difference to me. I think it's the healthcare program in general. People have gotten lax. It's not hard to become a nurse. And when they get there, they think they're Florence Nightingale. Florence Nightingale and Clara Barton got their hands bloody, okay? Today, when the light's on and you know, I walk by and I'm just visiting and I look in because I still do this. I can't stop myself. I look in and say, "What do you need, sweetie?" You know, "I need a bedpan." See, I'm not allowed to touch them now. So I say, "Okay, I'll get you a nurse." I go get the nurse. She goes, "Go get an aide." And I'm like, "When did you get so goody two-shoes you can't put a patient on a bedpan?"
Right.
We did all of that. I've made a name for myself as being pro-patient.
Sure.
And that is what I like, because that is what I trained for. I didn't train to sit at the desk and exchange biscuit recipes. That's not what I went to school for. So there's been a difference in education is better, but I think there's people that go into nursing that probably have no business going into nursing.
Right.
It's an easy career to obtain. The money's good, but I don't think their heart's in it. And you got to have your heart in nursing. At Life's Memorial, we went in the red, okay? I mean big time. Not one person for 6 weeks had a paycheck.
Wow.
You got paid every 2 weeks, and we missed 3 paychecks. And yet every one of us in every department came to work every day.
Wow.
That's because those are our family, our friends, and our neighbors. You ask one person to do an 8-hour shift and not get paid today and see how far you get. You won't. We didn't have a lot of foreigners when I grew up. We had white, we had black, and we had one World War II Japanese bride. That was it.
Wow.
Now you have a melting pot of culture, and I think it's good. I do think it's good. A lot of people don't. I do. Everybody has the right to a better life. And I'm happy to say that I've got a lot of people that are my friends that are from all nationalities and religions. We're all here for one thing, God's purpose, and that's, He puts people in your lives for a reason.
What types of things did you do for fun?
Wow, we had so much in Brooksville. We really did. We had the bowling alley, which at the back of it was the pool hall, which girls were not allowed to be in. We could only be in the bowling alley part. That was it. We had a roller skating rink that came once a year that they hooked together. It was a wooden floor down by Tom Fisher Stadium. And everybody looked forward to that roller skating rink coming. We didn't have a full-time one, just one that came once a year. That was it. Then we had the thing called the Freezette, which was on South 41, about where Woodruff's accounting is now. And it was you drive up, it was kind of like a A&W, but not type, A&W didn't exist then. But you came in, you got your chocolate flavored Cokes, or you got your ice cream, you got your burgers and fries. It was a screened in porch on the side, so you could eat inside, or you could sit in your car and eat. That was the hangout. That was it. Whatever day, payday was, Friday or Saturday, that was the shopping day. Okay, we did it all at one time. And we came in, it was the old A&P, which is part of the Methodist Church now. There was like one store, one grocery store. My grandfather had a store on the courthouse square, along with the curing plant that he had where he dressed out the animals. He had a little store that you could come in and get sugar, flour if you had forgotten something. And they called it the city market. He had apples and bananas out front on the sidewalk. People come by and grab an apple. Good morning, Mr. Coburn. How you doing today? I'm doing fine. How are you? And they walk off with an apple. That wasn't called stealing. It was called PR. I mean, it really was. I mean, it was just a simpler time. It sounded like we're from the backwoods and the Beverly Hillbillies, but we really did have a good life. And it was a quiet life, and it was a good life. You went to church on Sunday, you played all day on Saturday till you were worn out. You did your homework when you got home after you fed the animals. So if you didn't feed the animals, you're not eating to the animals. So I had to go out and feed the dog, the cat, the horse, the cow. Then you got to go inside because you got a lamp. We didn't have electric for a while. We had a lamp. Then we got electric. Then we finally got water. We carried our water back from my grandfather's house in the old milk containers. One was for bathing and one was for drinking and cooking. And, we didn't know we were poor. We had no idea we were poor. We were happy.
Do you have any specific memories of major events that happened in Hernando County that you think may have shaped the way the county is developed, or just something that was just really stuck out in the memory of the county?
The only thing that really I feel changed the county forever, unfortunately, was February the 21st, 1978. We did not have crime in Brooksville. I worked from 3 to 6 in the ER and was told I wasn't supposed to be there, and I tried to tell them I wasn't supposed to. It was my bowling night. So I went bowling in my uniform, which is very unethical, and called up my games and got a call that my cousin had been shot. He was a deputy. I knew he wore his vest, so my girlfriend drove me. I was not upset because I knew he wore his vest. But when I came into the building, all the cops looked at me, but all they saw was the white, and they moved out of my way. And I walked in, and I turned to Cliff Buckingham, the anesthetist, and I said, "Where's Lonnie?" And he goes, "Get her the hell out of here." And I turned, and he had blood and IVs going. The vest was on the floor. It was saturated in blood, and I knew. I knew. I was losing we had never had a murder, except way back in the 1800s. We had never had a murder. Mm-hmm. It shaped and changed this county forever, in my book. And the guys that did it, before they shot and killed him, had abducted, raped, and tortured a white pregnant woman. Wow. So these two guys were bad dudes. Yeah. Bad dudes. And it irks me to pick the paper up today, but it's about the one that says they cannot put me to death because I'm stupid. That's his defense, that he did this to this lady with her unborn child and to Lonnie, and he was stupid, therefore he can't be legally put down. So he's been on death row for 35 years.
Oh, wow.
This irks the family. There's no closure. A year later, a guy from Kentucky was passing through, and he bludgeoned to death a priest. And it's like, holy mackerel, Tampa's coming to Brooksville. My brother decided to become a law enforcement officer because Lonnie was killed. He was going to take Lonnie's place. That did not make me a happy camper. But he has moved his way up. He retired in 2008 as a assistant chief of police of Newport Richey. He's now working on a state level. He's 54. His son just became a cop. All of his in-laws have become cops. And it's like, wow, in our family, you're either cops or you're RNs. That seems to be the going thing. To see now the amount of patrol cars that have to be on the road, the amount of crime that is constantly, every day. Somebody's breaking in somewhere, stealing something, hurting somebody, domestic violence. We never had all of that growing up. It was a quiet little peaceful farming community. So crime took a big chunk out of Brooksville and changed our way of thinking. We can no longer feel secure walking down a sidewalk.
And with all that in mind, where do you see the county going from here?
I wouldn't be surprised if the county continues to grow at the pace it's growing. I mean, really, there's construction going on right now, even though we're supposed to be in debt, trillions of dollars and whatever. They are building things out on West 50, which will create jobs, which we need. I'm very verbal about this, and I don't apologize for it. I won't apologize for it. There are teenagers in schools that are looking for jobs, bag boys. They need a little cash to go on dates and whatever. And our senior citizens who have retired from up north come down here and they're bored. Well, I don't care if you're bored. You had your time. Go play golf. These teenagers need a job. They need to be bag boys. They need to learn responsibility. They can't go get a job because it's being held down by some 70 or 80-year-old person who is just bored. And that I don't like. I don't like, because I have several great nieces, great nephews, and grandson. They can't get a job. Even at McDonald's, they can't get a job because some senior citizen is in there working. And if they need it for their drugs, which is a possibility, I understand that. But you're taking these children's ability to have and enjoy the things that I did growing up. I worked when I was 14 for Lingle's Dime Store. I only wrapped presents, but it was $1 an hour, and I was 14, okay? But they have tried, my family personally have tried and tried and tried. We're all born and raised here and can't get a job. I never thought that we would be where we are now. I stood at the waterfall of Spring Hill, pregnant, thinking, who in the world would buy land out here? It's blackjack, oak, and rattlesnakes. And now look at Spring Hill.
Yeah.
I was very skeptic that that would turn into anything, and yet look what happened.
Right.
So it was supposed to be a retirement with us not. We went from 1 high school to 7. Things have changed. Mm-hmm. And I see it continuing to change. And I see people like me stuck in the mud, not liking it. To a certain point, I don't want us to grow, because you lose that contactability with individuals. You know, I've got classmates that I don't see except at reunions, and they just live in Wikiwachi. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not like it used to be. And nothing's ever going to be like it used to be. Sure. You heard the term the good old days, and everybody's good old days means something different to them. Mm-hmm. I mean, and when I say good old days, I mean that. There was respect, there was manners, it was aunt and uncle, so-and-so. It was yes ma'am and no ma'am. And today people can bump you in the store and look at you like you're the one that did it. And I say, oh, excuse me. And they go, yeah, right. We in Brooksville did not talk to elders that way. Mm-hmm. We just didn't. I mean, you would have eaten 32 teeth if you'd even tried to back talk to an elder.
How do you think the city of Brooksville has responded to the, exponential growth of Spring Hill, culturally speaking or historically speaking? Because to me, coming from the outside, I've only been here for a couple of years, mm-hmm. It looks like Brooksville is that old town, mm-hmm. and I still get I still see the essence of days gone by. Yeah. Do you think that Brooksville is going to keep that old time charm to it? Do you think it's done that so far?
I think it has. Yeah. I think it has maintained itself. We have a lot of people that haven't been here that long that want to live in Brooksville because of the way it is. They came from a small, I know, I was talking to a classmate in the middle of, it used to be Eckerd's, and we were talking and laughing, and some lady walked up, and we thought we were in her way, so we moved. And she moved with us. And I was like, I'm sorry, I thought we were in your way. No, I want to listen to what you're saying. I'm from Massachusetts. I've only been here 6 years. I love these stories. And Ann and I wound up entertaining her for about a half an hour. She wanted to know all she could about Brooksville. Mm-hmm. And she says, I hope it never changes. So I know that there are a lot of people that come here that want Brooksville maintained in that whatever era we're in. I think we're in a cross era right now. We're trying to stay in the past, but we're also grasping for the future, mm-hmm. But I don't see it developing that much bigger. But I continue to see Spring Hill develop, and it's coming toward us. And there will be a time when you will not notice a difference between Brooksville and Spring. It'll be a transition that just, you're not going to know when you left one and entered the other. It's almost that way now. I'm glad God put me where he did. I can't see living anywhere else or being anywhere else. And the friends and family I have, this has been, I've never left except to travel, but I can't wait to get back.
Wow.